Let's talk about third person limited over on this board here. So, third person limited. Third person limited, you are in one person's head in a given scene, and you do not show things that they cannot see, okay? You have to be careful of viewpoint errors. Because they will knock you out. You'll knock the reader out of the narrative, which means that if I'm sitting here and getting a drink and someone enters behind me, in third limited you do not say, John entered behind him. You say, the door opened and he turned to see who had entered. It's a fairly big distinction. In first person you say, oh, and John came in, because you're writing it in past. They know, you know who it was. Though usually I would suggest just go ahead and say the door opens, because it's an auditory clue. It brings you more immersively into the scene. It doesn't take any more words, really. But careful of errors. Third person, though, what it can really do is it can do a large cast better, because you're being constantly reminded of the character's viewpoint and their name as you're writing, whose viewpoint you're in. It can really help you pull into a scene. It sometimes is better for a scene and setting of the immediate nature. So while you can't cheat on your info dumps, I've found that that third person, that first person, if you can imagine one of those gumshoe novels, right? The hard-boiled detective novels where they give you this awesome description of how it's raining at night. If any of you guys read these, you know what these are like. It's like, the rain came outside. It was so melancholy. It felt like my soul was weeping. That one's over. But you know what I'm saying. Like, you get this, all this gumshoe stuff. Well, when you've got this great first-person narrator, but each of those things are kind of pointing, me. Pay attention to me as the character, as opposed to the actual scene. And I found that you could do a little bit better job in third limited setting a scene. Okay? Large cast is good. You can give that epic scope. And this is the best one for hiding things from the reader, save perhaps the third omniscient with the kind of storyteller who'll say, he didn't know this, or there was something behind the door. You'll find out eventually what it was, but there was something horrible behind that door. You can do that in the present narrative, but it feels cheaper. And this, you can just not show a viewpoint that knows, and so you can hide things, and so it can work pretty well. What am I missing here? What other advantages are there? Who wants a green gummy bear? Come up with an answer. I'll give you a green one. Advantages. Why do you guys like third limited in the books that you've read it in? All right. Back there.
You're not confined to like one point of view, I suppose. You feel
Okay.
more free.
Yeah, you feel more freedom with viewpoints. One of the great things that you can do in third limited that is basically impossible in most first persons is the throwaway viewpoint. You see this one person for just a couple of pages, and they're kind of interesting, and they move the scene along, but then they die. Or something like that, or you see Tom Clancy would do this sometimes and stuff. You get the one scene from some random person's viewpoint, and that's a cool thing that third limited can do much better than first. What else?
I was saying that you can kind of knock out or kill characters better.
Okay, yeah, easier to off characters. Yeah.
Scott Westerfield does this thing where with each character, he dramatically changes the things that he'll describe to you, even though it's not first person.
Right.
And so it kind of feels almost like first person, but I don't know, it's like he uses the advantage of both.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. That's item number 2 on our list there. But yeah, good.
I think with third person, something that's happening is kind of it's easier to show kind of bias and make a gray area in the world. I'm thinking
Okay.
specifically of George R. R. Martin.
Okay.
You don't necessarily, your viewpoint as the reader, your opinion of the story can shift back and forth.
Yeah, I think you could do that in first as well, but the thing about third with such a larger cast is you can kind of show more shades of it. One thing about third, ooh, you got a red one. One thing about third is, oh, I had it here. What was I going to say? Ooh, that's another one. I'm going to eat that. You can, oh man, this was a good one too. Okay, we'll let Jennifer talk.
I'll do one. Is it you can do like distance and sameness at the same, or and closeness at the same time. I'm
Okay.
thinking like Matt and 90 Eve in Wheel of Time, sort of the unreliable narrator about
Oh,
themselves.
you can mix an unreliable in their own thoughts
Yeah.
with a reliable, yeah, and so you can show inherent discord. Matt's a great example of this. You know, what he says so conflicts with what he thinks, which conflicts with the actual narrative when the narrator is going, that it's delightful because Anyway, the thing I was going to say is I feel like a third personally for me when I'm reading it. I feel more like I can be that character and see through their eyes, where when it's I, it's not me. It's someone talking to me. I feel like I'm more immersed in the story a lot of times. And this kind of goes back to that setting thing. I think third is more immersive for a story, whereas first is better at showing you a great character.
And it's, for me at least, in third person, it's easier to forgive the character for being dumb and things like that.
Okay, yeah.
It's easier to kind of gloss
Showing a
over
stupid
that.
character is very different. Yeah, okay.
It's often easier to like the character in third person because their voice is great and it's more distance, it's not so much in your face.
Okay, yeah. All right, so, we'll do this one, then we'll move on.
Easier to show character flaws. You don't have to work as hard to get it in there.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, you can show some really great character flaws in first, but they can be really jarring when you do them, and it might be easier to be a little more subtle with them in a third. So anyway, picking which one of these is going to be pretty fundamental to your book. Most of you are probably already writing in one of these two, and I would suggest that you continue on with it. But whatever you do, let's talk about that second thing that I had on my list. I'm going to go back over to this one, just to make it easier for filming. And this one is how you handle description, meaning how the character sees the world. And we're going to transition to description, but the second part of viewpoint, this isn't actually even number 2 here. This is the second half of viewpoint moving toward it. So these are the basic fundamentals. What that editor is actually looking for, or the reader unconsciously, what they're looking for, is when they pick up that first page, that the character kind of jumps off the page at them by the way they see the world. And Scott Westerfeld does a very good job of this, and you were talking about it. What's going to go on is you're going to try and make this character come to life by the simple things they do. Okay? In first person, this is actually easier because their voice can saturate everything. But I think, though it's a little bit harder in third person, when it works in third person, it can be extremely majestically beautiful. And it can really be, like, if you can master this, editors are going to love your stories. And that is letting each line of description, each thing that is known, come filtered through the lens of the character's eyes. All right?